Hello YouTube, welcome. Today I'm going to do a quick little medium mini review on the Samsung CF791 curved widescreen is what they call it, but it's an ultra wide monitor, and its full model number is the LC34F791 WQNXZA. Nobody really calls it that though, we all just call it the CF791. This is just their website I was using here to kind of look over their specs and stuff. They claim it's got 125% sRGB or something like that coverage, 3000 to 1 contrast ratio, flawless gameplay, and it's a 1500R curve, which means this is, I think, the most curved monitor you can get, at least at this size. I haven't seen anything else that low of a number. Normally they're about 1800. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to get too heavy into the specs. One of the few things I wanted to mention, because it mattered to me when I was originally looking, is it is HDMI 2.0 and it is DisplayPort 1.2, I believe A, which I think is what supports the FreeSync. Now, I do have an AMD card. It's just a 480. But I don't use FreeSync and I don't care about G-Sync. I'm not into all that stuff. I'm not a hardcore pro gamer, so I haven't tested the flickering problem, but I'm sure you've either heard about it or know about it, and you can find other videos showing that. I'm going to cover more of a general usage and my experience with this monitor. Yeah, it's awesome for gaming and movies, but what I would like to cover briefly in this little review is I came from a 1610 Dell monitor, which I believe was VA panel, similar. I think Samsung actually made that panel, and I came to this monitor, and I had some concerns from reading reviews on things like, is there color shifting, they call it, and is there light bleed and all that kind of stuff, and I'll try to cover those briefly here for the review. So let's jump right into this. I drive this, like I say, with a 480 graphics card, and I can play most games in 3440 by 1440p, no problem. Videos look great on this, especially in full screen. When you're watching a movie in full screen, it's like anything else that you've ever seen. It's just the full movie. You don't have, well, assuming it's filmed in 2.35 to 1 or a little around that ratio, you don't have black bars anywhere. It's just the full screen, and it's kind of jaw-dropping to see the first few times, because you get the movie is upsized, because most 1080p movies are, they're going to have to be doubled a little bit. But if you get a 4K movie on this thing, it just looks beautiful. And at that point, the only thing I fight with is how far back should I be sitting? Because if you're too close, your peripheral can see kind of what's going on. In a movie, that's a little bit more important than in a game. In a game, when you're sitting close, if you just see something twitch, you move over there and you look at it. It's not that important. But in a movie, if you're leaning like this, which is really too close, I wouldn't recommend it. You're going to have to kind of do this. So I set it back about this far, and it's just great. So on that point, let's talk about the color shifting, which I noticed mostly when I was watching, a movie. Really, I would rather call it light shifting, because the colors, while they do change a little bit, really mostly what you're getting is more or less light in those particular colors. So when I'm looking at a black image on the screen, which I don't really have a full black image, but in this area of the car here, if I stand up and look down on it, that black turns to a gray, like a dark gray. And if I lean like, this way and that way, yeah, the light it gets more washed out, is the best way I would put it. If you're sitting here like this and you haven't used one before and you're curious, well, how much does that color shifting come into play? Well, if you're just like this and you tilt a little bit, just like this, you're not really going to notice it unless you're really looking for it. If you do this, yeah, you're going to notice it. I see color shifting, or if you're like spinning in your chair and you're talking to somebody and you're looking at this angle, yeah, you're going to notice it. And I really notice it most if I stand up for a second, like I'm going to go answer the door or something, and I grab my mouse and I want to click on something, and I'm up here and I'm looking down. That's where I really mostly notice it. But if you're just sitting here like this and you kind of lean to the side a little bit, or you just kind of tilt your head a little bit, you're really not going to notice it. So don't worry about the color shifting or light shifting just on small axis. It's when you really get to the sides like this. And yeah, you can see it. But for me, coming from a monitor, the Dell 2408 or 2407, I was already kind of used to that. Like, I had been playing a game once and I really leaned over like this because I was kind of tired, and I noticed that all the blacks became like a gray color. And I'm already conditioned to that. But if you're coming from a super gaming IPS panel, it's possible it could bother you if you do a lot of leaning and stuff. But if you're just going to sit in the front like this and not move and just play your games, you're really not going to notice much of the color shifting. So I wanted to briefly touch on that. The other thing I wanted to point out is there is a few minor flaws with this monitor. And I posted videos of this separately on my YouTube, so you may have already seen them. And I'll just bring them up over this with an overlay to show you. But sometimes when I have a movie in the screen, you know, on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, like I like to watch my movies in their native resolution while I'm doing other things. And on this monitor, a 1080p movie, you know, it will fill. Let's see if I have one open. So I was just using Armageddon, but this is what I say what I mean when I say I watch movies in a 1080p natural format. This window it's cropping the image to just what the movie is, you know, and then I'll open something like, you know, a window, an Internet Explorer window or something, and I'll move it over here. And I can do the two things at once. Yeah, there's a little bit of overlap here in the middle, but if that really bothers me, I'll just shrink the window a little bit. But I'm still getting 100% of the resolution, and the movie looks beautiful. Well, this is how I found the first minor little nitpick issue. I was watching this, and as I moved this window next to it, I could see lines appearing. Actually, what had happened is I was watching the video, and I wasn't even moving this, and a line appeared, and I was like, what? And I thought maybe my monitor was broken. And then eventually, somehow, I clicked the window and I moved it, and I saw that the line moved with the top of the window and the bar here. And I think I had Facebook open, which has that big blue bar at the top. And as I moved it, I could see little lines corresponding. And I think what's going on with this monitor is I think that when it has a really dark scene and a really light scene, or I shouldn't say scene, a light color and a dark color next to each other, there's like a contrast change that I think sweeps the whole monitor if you're using Windows. Now, I have never noticed this when I have the window, like the movie open full screen. I do not notice any kind of lines or any problems or anything like that. Like, it's beautiful. It's perfect when you're watching a movie. And I haven't done enough gaming yet, but I haven't found any issues in the games I have played. I played some Doom, I played some Mirror's Edge, a couple of other games that aren't coming to mind right now, that I haven't noticed any lines or anything when I'm playing full screen. So that being said, as a full screen experience, it's awesome. It kicks ass. It's beautiful. It's everything I could hope for. But when I'm watching my movies a little bit smaller and I'm doing something over here, sometimes a line will appear on medium gray to semi-darkish scenes. I haven't really noticed it in full black scenes or really dark scenes, but I do notice it in scenes where a little more washed out. Movies from like the 80s will show it a little bit more. And it's not always 100%, but some scenes will show it more than others. I have not been able to get a response from Samsung on this, but I suspect this is a flaw with the VA panel technology in general. Now, that doesn't mean other manufacturers will have it. It might be something specific to what Samsung's doing, and maybe quantum dot coupled with the fact that it's curved a lot more makes it more visible. And I say that because my friend has a Samsung monitor. It's not this model. It's older. It's probably 2 or 3 years old, and it's a big 32-inch, just regular 16:9. And I tried the test on his with moving the screen with a color or a window open that matched the settings, and I could just barely tell it was sort of barely doing it. It was so hard to notice, though. I probably never would have caught it had I not been looking for it. And for the first 2 or 3 minutes, he couldn't see it. Then as he sat back a little bit, he goes, "Oh, I see it now." And it was, you couldn't even see the lines. All you could see was just like a slight shadow, like one gamut of color off or something. It was so unnoticeable that you would never complain about it. Now, in this monitor, maybe it's because my brightness settings, or maybe, like I say, it's ultra wide, or maybe because it's a quantum dot, and that makes it brighter and more vibrant colors, or something. It makes it a little bit more noticeable. Actually, way more noticeable. But I'm not seeing it right now. If I'm just sitting back and I'm doing my work and I do this, I actually have to look for it. Like, okay, now I can kind of see it. It's a minor flaw. And I probably wouldn't say let it hold you back from purchasing this monitor if you can get a good deal on it. I got it on eBay for $7.99 shipped, and for me, I'm okay with that little flaw because I watch enough movies in the full screen that if I'm doing it in this, I'm not paying enough attention to it that it really bothers me. It's just something I noticed and I thought was kind of weird. So I wouldn't let it hold you back. I think, like I say, any Samsung monitor will probably have it to some degree, but if anybody else has any other of their fairly new monitors, or especially a quantum dot, if they have a 4K, I don't know, they've got some new monitors coming out, and you can replicate it, it's always good to know. I've seen some people on my other videos say they've seen it. I've seen some people say they haven't seen it. You have to realize that some people just may not know what to look for, and they may just grab their window and go like this. "Oh, I don't see it," and they might just give up. I still suspect all Samsung monitors probably have this issue, just because I think it's an inherent problem with the VA technology. But I can't prove that. That's just my assumption. So now I want to move on to the other little problem I've noticed. Let me see if I can pick a slightly darker scene here. It might be easier. So I'm pausing this, and again, I'll show this in the video, or I'll overlay it if this is too hard to tell. But I have this. I was surfing a website, and I found this little. I found like a background popped up, and I noticed that my brightness popped when this happened. And so when I can get this to happen just by opening this in Paint, this image, I copied it and pasted it, or I can open it in Image Viewer, and you can, I don't know if you can see that there, but the whole screen pops in color a little bit. And not only does it do that, but when this image is up, I notice a slight graininess that wasn't there before. You have to really get up and see it, and I can't really get it to show up in pictures. Oh, by the way, the line thing is happening there really bad right now. It seems to be more prevalent when this graininess problem happens. You probably can't see it in the image there, but it's totally moving with the top of this window. And like I say, it's kind of a minor thing, but you know, when I minimize this and expand it, maximize it and minimize it, you can see there's a color shift. Now, here's the curious thing about that. This doesn't always happen. If I open this in Internet Explorer, it doesn't happen. And previous to this, I'm just using Windows Image Viewer. I had you can change the color profile, and at first when I got the monitor, the color profile on this was wrong. It was all pink back here. I had to change it to sRGB. When the color profile on this is not correct, it doesn't do the brightness popping. So I'm not sure what's going on. I still think it has to do with a dark image and a brighter image. I think that this white is brighter than the pink that was there, and it causes the monitor's processor to kind of glitch out. I suspect maybe Samsung rushed the processor in this thing a little bit, and this might actually be related to what happens in the FreeSync, or whatever it's called, the AMD FreeSync. This might be related to it. I don't have FreeSync on. I've turned it off though, so I can't prove that. This is just a hunch. I'm not an engineer. This is Samsung's job to figure out and fix. And I don't expect that there will be any kind of software fix to fix these monitors. Who knows if there will be a new revision of this where maybe they put G-Sync in and it doesn't do it anymore. I don't really know. Those two things are the biggest issues I have found with this monitor, and they're really not deal breakers for me, and I wouldn't say they should be deal breakers for somebody else. That being said, I don't believe there is a perfect display out there. You know, these people who bought the X34, the Predator, and the Acer, or those monitors, they had problems where if they clocked it up to 100 hertz, sometimes they'd get flickering, or they'd hear noise. There's no noise in the back. There's no flickering. This thing handles 100 hertz rock solid. I cannot verify the claim that they say it is a 100 hertz panel native, because it seems to be every time I look, a lot of the manuals say 60, 75, but can operate at 100. That to me doesn't say native. But I will say this, in the menu, when you plug something in, there's a little box that pops up here. I can't replicate it because I'm running it at the right hertz, but if you have it set at anything but 100 hertz, it actually tells you, optimal or recommended settings is 3414 by 1440, 3440 by 1440 at 100 hertz. So if I'm running at 60, it tells me I'm at 60, and it recommends that I set it to 100. So that's pretty cool. Like I say, I've been running it in Windows at 100 hertz, and Windows move around very smoothly and nicely. And once you get used to that and you go back to a 60 hertz, it's a little jarring. You're like, oh God, it's ugh. So the fact that they recommend it tells me that it's at least able to handle it and it's made for it, and I'm not overclocking it per se against their recommendations. They've probably spec'd it out to run at that. I can't say if it's native, but I can say that having DisplayPort 1.2a and HDMI 2.0 better helps that bandwidth, because I could be wrong, but I think that the Acer, the Predator, and the Asus, I don't know if they have 2.0 and 1.2. Maybe they do. I'm not sure. I'm not going to go into all that. Whoever's watching this will know, or if you own that monitor, you'll know. But from my understanding, that's what's holding most of the refresh rates back, is the DisplayPort and HDMI protocol plug thing, is that the bandwidth is being maxed out. Now, I could be wrong. Please feel free to put it in the comments if I'm wrong. So let's get back. Let's finish this up, because it's probably running a bit long. One of the other things I wanted to touch upon, which I didn't know at first when I was buying this monitor, and I just wanted to talk about it, is that the monitor can raise and lower and tilt. I thought originally when you raise the monitor, let me move my little alien here, that it would. You see how it points up, and if you raise it, it kind of points down. I thought that was it. It didn't tilt, but you can actually tilt it beyond that. So you can get it any height that you want. You want it really low, and then you can tilt it forward. and it doesn't turn. I'm turning the stand. So also what I was going to say is, as you raise it though, it will keep that pivot point. So you'll have to tilt it to the right degree. Again, it does not turn this way. My stand is actually turning, and you can actually see this is coming. But this is not broken. If you see this back here, I didn't snap it in fully because I was changing cables, testing some stuff out, and I'll talk about that before the review is over. So I was nervous about that because I thought if I wanted it at the right height, I was going to have to watch my monitor like that, and who would want to do that, right? It's really dumb. But the cool thing about that feature is no matter where you are, if you want to stand up and use your monitor, you just push it down, and now when you stand up and look down at it, you don't quite get that color faded effect. You still do, unless you really got it perfectly pointed at you. But it absolutely will raise and lower, and it absolutely will tilt. I do not use the USB ports in the back of it or anything like that. That kind of stuff isn't important to me. But I don't even know where they would be. So again, if you want all the tech specs of where everything is and how it all works, there's plenty of reviews on that. This review is mostly to cover my usage as a regular user who does, lots of video watching, lots of surfing. I do I type up stuff, and I do gaming as well. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and start up Mirror's Edge Catalyst here, just to show a little bit of gaming. You won't be able to see frame rate or anything like that, but I just want to talk about how my gaming experience changed. Coming from a monitor that's 16:9, or mine was 16:10, it was actually closer to a 4:3 of a TV. At first, it's a little bit. I'm not even going to use the word jarring. It's just different. You're not quite used to it being so wide, and it does feel, just for like 3 seconds, it feels a little bit narrow on top and bottom. But that fades really quickly, and you soon find that your experience is really amazing. Like, just walking around like this, sitting, I sit about this far back, you can see things on the side of the screen that may not be crucial to gameplay, but being able to see those is like, oh, something's happening over there. It's a fantastic experience, and eventually you don't even notice that maybe your old monitor might have been an inch higher. Like if you're coming from a 34-inch 16:9, you might lose like a half inch or an inch with a 34-inch ultra wide, but you just don't notice. Now, I will admit mine were 27 inches, 24 inches, which put them almost the exact same height or a little bit smaller. I'm totally happy with it, and it's amazing. Once you play games like this and you go back to a smaller screen, it feels claustrophobic. You're like, you could do it, but this is obviously a much more luxurious experience. It's so much better for the gameplay experience, in my opinion. Now, that being said, not every game supports ultra wide. That should be noted, that not every game is going to have it, and because of that, sometimes if you play a game, you will have black bars here with no information, and you either adjust to that, or you just stop playing that game, or you keep a secondary monitor. For me, I can just adjust to it. It's like anything. I watched a movie full screen that was shot in 16:9 with the black bars on the side, and after a few minutes, it's just like when you had to get used to them up here. They fade away. If you look to the left with your eyeballs, you'll catch them, or if some action steers you that way, you'll see them, but you get over it. It's not a big issue. So, some of the older games will have that problem, but it's really not that big of an issue. And there's some programs that you can get that can kind of convert some games over. I don't really care to use those at this point because I'm mostly playing modern games that support it. I know that a lot of the Blizzard games don't support ultra-wide, so if that's all you play is Blizzard games, you might want to consider or reconsider an ultra-wide in general, because Blizzard is just not, they don't care to accept it right now. I guess it's unfair advantage. I don't know. I don't know how that's any different than somebody who's got a faster video card, because smoother frame rate is an unfair advantage. But you could use the same argument, like if you want to spend that $1,000 on that graphics card, why can't I spend $1,000 on a monitor and be able to see a little more on the side? Oh, because that guy can't. Well, he could spend the money and do it. I can't get 90 frames per second. I'm only at 30. They don't mandate video cards. So I think it's personally a stupid position to take, but They know their game better than I do. I don't play a lot of those games, so you don't have to listen to me. That's just my personal opinion. One thing I wanted to point out here is that, and I'll show an image. Some people have said that in the corners, when they have a white screen up, they can notice just a little bit of color. What would be the right word for this? Yellowing or changing. I do notice that in my corners, there's just a tiny bit. The white is just a little bit more yellow than some of the other whites, but it's only like a tiny amount, smaller than half of a dime, or I don't know what size that would be in other countries if you're watching this, but it's literally, I would bring it up and show it, but I don't know that you would actually be able to even see it. It's really not noticeable. You'd have to actually be looking down at it. It's kind of like looking for dead pixels, which, by the way, I didn't scan my monitor for dead pixels. I believe it's free of them because none have caught my eye in the month that I've owned this monitor. But I did not use those colors to scan it. I did a quick test where I opened each one for a second and just made sure there was nothing glaring like clusters of pixels. I didn't have any problems with that. It doesn't mean that you won't. It's just, it comes with the territory. Bad pixels have been a thing ever since LCDs have been invented, and I don't think they'll ever absolutely perfect it. And even if they do, things slip through quality control. So, if one of them happens to be out here in the edge and I see it in a year, I'm not going to care. I'm actually happier. Ignorance is bliss. I'm happier not spending an hour trying to find one and go, oh, there's the one, because it'll just bug you. Why even do that? So I didn't do that, but I didn't notice anything. I have yet to notice anything. And the corner edges, for me, I mostly only noticed it in the bottom left corner. I guess it's slightly in the bottom right. And again, it might just be perception, but it might just be the light, the light changing or the light bleed. I don't really know that it's anything. On the start bar, I can't see it. In a movie, if it's a full white screen and I quickly scan the corners, I can just kind of slightly notice it, but it's very minor. And it, like I say, it might even just be perception because it's not like it's really brown yellow. It's like it's one tiny step less white than everything else. And from some of the reviews I've seen, the really technical ones where they use these maps to show the light transitioning, I think it's a normal thing. So that's the only other thing that some people have asked about, and I guess mine kind of has it, but I did not catch it till somebody pointed it out to me, and even then I'm still not sure that I'm really seeing it or whatnot. There's not really anything else about this monitor that I have a problem with, except for this is so minor. The power button, and this is, I think this is how some of the Mac screens do it, or Apple's. The power button is the menu button in the back, and you actually have to click it, press down to power off, and then click it again. And it's not a big issue. I just got really used to going bloop, pushing one button and my monitor went off. So for this, it's really not the biggest problem in the world. Turning it on, you just reach back there and you click it. So if you can't, you can see I have a small clearance here between my big, kind of studio referencey style speakers, bookshelf speakers. If you don't have a lot of clearance getting to the back, it can be a problem. There is no power here. There is no power on the front. You have to reach back here to access the menu. Apparently these monitors come calibrated out of the box, and so it said it's only calibrated on the custom, so I just selected custom, and then I adjusted the brightness and the contrast to my liking, and I left the color settings the way they are. I don't know if I'm doing that right or wrong. Please tell me. Mine are all just 50-50-50, and gamma mode 1 color tone custom. I'm assuming that that's where they calibrated it to. Really quickly, a note on the contrast. I was using a website that showed you two boxes, and I found that between 74 and 75, the box disappeared and came back. So 75 and 76. 75 was the highest or lowest I wanted to go. That was the cutoff for me. And then I just like my brightness at 40. And I found that sharpness, like everybody else has been saying about this monitor, text is overly sharp. You get kind of a chromatic aberration effect, which is kind of like the red and blue, blurring. If it's anything above 45 for me, it's too much. I was using it on 40 for a while, then I adapted it down to 36 just cuz, but if you try to use it on anything too high, you're going to get that really bleeding sharp text that's got like artifacting or something. I'm not sure, but it looks fine at 36. I've never had a problem now. I can read the text just fine. I don't notice it looking bad or anything like that. And most of the other options I don't really mess with. So that's basically it, I think. I will talk about this little thing here in the back. You can route your cables. You can open up that little stand and route your cables down in there nicely and then snap it back shut. I don't know how many cables will fit in there, but just fitting the power cable and the HDMI cable has it pretty full for me. You might be able to get a USB cable in there as well, but like I said, I don't use the USB portion of this monitor. I can't get back there very easily. So I don't really mess with that. And then you snap it back closed, and then you've got a nice clean, no cables everywhere. It also does have a VESA mount adapter in the box, which I'm not using, but you can mount it in there and then mount that on a VESA arm, and you can go to town. A lot of the monitors don't necessarily have that. I think even the new Asus one, which has just come out or coming out, that has a VA panel as well, I don't think it has. I think it's stuck on the stand, if I remember correctly. This is not an induction charger or anything like that, like on Asus's, which is kind of a cool feature. For me, it doesn't matter so much. I don't have anything that charges that way, so it's just kind of a circular dock for my Alien, or if I want to put my wallet there or something, I can do that. I'm assuming it'll scratch up. It's just plastic. It's not metal. So that being said, I believe this bezel here is also plastic. Most of the bezel is plastic, and the back is white plastic. Like I say, if you want all those details, you can find people that have like $10,000 HDR cameras that took really good quality. This was just to cover some of the issues I was experiencing with it, and now a month into it, how I feel about it. I still love the monitor. If they released another version that didn't have the lines and didn't pop the brightness and didn't get, that was fixed those, it would probably be pretty close to the perfect monitor in my opinion. That's not including things like FreeSync or G-Sync because I just don't use those. I suspect they will fix that. If those are important to you, there's plenty of people covering the FreeSync issue with this. You might want to stay away, and it doesn't have G-Sync, so you probably aren't going to buy it anyways. I'm not going to give NVIDIA $200 extra for a feature that I don't really care about. I just will buy a video card that can keep most of my games running at between 60 and 100 frames, and if I have to, I'll turn down shadows or lighting to keep that frame rate up there. I'm just not a super competitive gamer, so that doesn't matter to me. If that stuff matters to you, look into other options, because this, for me, it was a deal at $799 shipped. This monitor, I think, is now MSRPing still for $949. I think you can find some places still have it for not too much more, $849. I think Micro Center or somebody might have had, but don't quote me on that. I don't work for them. I know nothing about them. But if you're just looking for the best price, that was the last place I saw that had it. I'm sure they'll come down in price over time. I wasn't going to pay $1,000 for it, and I certainly wasn't going to pay $1,300 for a G-Sync monitor, the ones that are coming out, whatever. But when I saw this for $799, that was a good enough price. It put it only $100 over the microboard, and for me, having the option to have a warranty or return it, those kind of things were important, and they were worth $100 for me. When you buy a microboard from somebody in Korea, you are going to have a hard time returning it, especially if you have to pay shipping. You'll lose that $100 like that. And I've seen people with microboards have different problems. Now, some of them have the same problems I do because the microboards, I believe, are made by Samsung, so it's very similar panel, if not the exact same panel, minus the quantum dot, I believe. Nobody's proven it either way, but that's the assumption. So I don't think, for me to save the $100, yeah, it could have been nice, but that seller was kind of off and on in stock. And this just came up and it was there, and it was like, you know what, for $100 more, a little bit of peace of mind, and the brand name of Samsung, if I do go to resell this monitor, I'll probably have a little bit easier time than I would a microboard, which I hadn't even heard of. It just happened that I had done enough research that I found out about it. And I was really tempted to get a microboard, I really was, because it's essentially the same monitor. But after seeing a couple other reviews on eBay, this has a few nicer little features that also make it worth the money. The internal speakers are a little better quality, which I don't use. I accidentally used them the other day, and they're serviceable. If you have this hooked up to a game player or something, and you just want to play a game in your living room, you don't want to get out a sound system, or you just want to watch a movie really quickly, they will get the job done. There's not a ton of bass, but they're mostly pretty clear. You can use them. They sound a little hollow, but what do you expect? They're not. It's not a Bose sound system in there, as far as I'm aware. It also has a better upscaler, I believe. So if you're plugging in something like an Xbox and you want to upscale it and stretch it, I believe it does a far more fantastic job from what I saw on the videos on YouTube. I didn't test this myself, but if I ever wanted to, I mean, that's a few extra bucks. And it's got the quantum dot, which arguably is better or not. I don't know. I have noticed that coming from my old Dell, it was very yellow looking, and this is much more clear. The colors skin tones are far more peachy and more realistic. Reds pop like there's no tomorrow. I almost wonder if maybe my red's driven a little too hard. But then I start to think maybe we're so used to the blue light filter of LEDs dimming our reds that we're just used to muted reds, because things in real life that are red, are really quite red. This is kind of a bad example. It's a dark red, but even oranges and stuff, things that are that color in real life are very bright. And you can see, like, just bringing this up, red is red, and you'll be watching a movie and the red pops more than anything else. But like I say, I think it's because we're used to other colors, yellow and green, being kind of bright and not the red. So I think the quantum dot probably does add a little bit. And there's a guy on YouTube that's got he's had the microboard and the Samsung next to each other, and he says there is a little difference. He doesn't think it's that big, but for an extra 20 or 30, if you siphoned out the money, better speakers, quantum dot, better upscaler, probably paying about $20-25 more for the quantum dot feature. I say, why not? It's probably worth the money, unless it's the cause of the other problems, which I don't think so, because I've seen microboard owners say that they can replicate the same things I can. So for me, it's like, why not? I get a little bit of extra feature, and it's scaled appropriately with the money. Personally, I would say that this monitor is worth the $800, probably worth $850. As you start to getting into the $9,000 and $1,000 territory, you might be tangible or good to look at other options. That Asus with the induction charger, if you don't need to change it much, if that solid stand is fine for you, Maybe it doesn't have the line problems and the flicker that I'm getting here, and that would be kind of neat. Again, these are very specific situations. I have not found another website with this background that makes this flicker happen. This is, I don't even remember where it was. It was like an advertisement or something that popped up, but it hasn't happened again since. So it's kind of rare. I think it's just when it's really fine textured things. So it's not going to happen all the time. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, when it happens, you just move on. One last thing I wanted to talk about, and this was a question that came in from my friend. How do you adjust to such a curve? Is that curve really strong? Coming from a completely flat monitor to a curved monitor of the highest degree, 1500R, I will say, at first, it was slightly awkward. Slightly. The biggest thing I noticed that made it any kind of awkwardness is when you go to drag a non-full screen window like this and you go to move it, for like a split second, my brain goes bloop, because it's like the monitor has a curve to it just slightly and the window doesn't. So you move it and you're like, well, how do I, it's just a weird kind of, you can feel the difference between the straight line of this and the curve of that, or maybe this is curved too, but there's some part of my brain that kind of backpedals for about a half second and then it's gone. That's it. That's the only thing I notice. I'm never like watching a movie and the curve bugs me, or playing a game. As soon as I play a game, I'm in that game. I don't even, there's a curve? What? You could tell me there's no curve and I would believe you. And same with a movie. I would actually argue with a VA panel, you want this bigger curve because it keeps the edges from being at such an angle. And this is why I think they did it, that you get the washout. Just sitting here like this, you know, yes, these corners do get a small amount of color shift or brightness, or as I call it, light fading. And as I turn my head here, this becomes more red, and as I turn it here, it's a little bit more of a washed out red. So in the very edges, I would say almost like a circle, there's a little bit of it. But they couldn't go too much more curved without it being ridiculous, I think. I think they probably hit the sweet spot here. It also wouldn't surprise me to not see any other manufacturers do this, especially if they're not VA panels. I will be curious to see when the reviews come out for this, for the Asus and any others. I think the Omen that I think are a little bigger and do not have as much of a curve, or maybe they do because they're bigger. There's a mathematical algorithm to it. As the monitor gets bigger, that number doesn't represent the same curvature. So I don't know if 1800R at 35 inches is the same as 1500R at 34 inches. Somebody who's awesome at math can tell me. I don't know the answer to that, but assuming those are less curved, I will be curious to see if anybody points out that there's a little bit of color shifting on the edges. If they say they're not, I'll be a little skeptical. Again, it's not enough to bug me. Like I say, it's just in the very corners here, and that might be why it looks yellowy. I don't know. But it's, like I say, if I do this, it's a brilliant red, and if I do that, it's more of a lightened red. So there is that. You won't notice it in day usage. It does not bother me at all. I'm used to a VA panel. If you're not, maybe you'll have a problem. Go into a Fry's or a Best Buy or something and look for a VA type panel and play around with it. See if it bugs you, because it doesn't bug me that much. So I did want to point that out. The curvature is not that bad. I've only noticed it when moving a window, and for a split second, it's just weird because I'm not used to it. We've had straight monitors for 20 years or however long you've been doing this. So other than that, the curve does not bother me. I wanted to point that out because I was afraid at first. I was like, that's the most severe curve, and some other people will say, I think it's a little too much. I don't think so at all. Give it a week. Guarantee you, it will not bug you. You'll be like, I love it. It's great. You will not be like, that's too much of a curve. I mean, and if you are, then I guess you're just really sensitive. If you're really sensitive about everything in your life and you only settle for 100% perfection, have fun not ever buying a monitor, because you won't ever buy one, because there will be a flaw in every monitor. The curve is not one of them in this. It's just different, and you just need to use it for a while and get used to it, because it's not bad at all. You'll never notice it in gamings. You'll never notice it in movies. I only notice it when I drag a window, and it's more of a feeling than it is like an annoyance. It's like, oh, that felt weird. Oh, okay. And then I just go back to work. That's it. So that is my little review. It actually got longer than I thought of the Samsung CF791. It's their 34-inch ultra-wide, I guess you could say, gaming monitor. It's 100 hertz. Native, they claim. I don't know if that's true or not, but it has not failed me yet. They also claim 4 milliseconds response time. That's one other thing I'll talk about. I know I was wrapping it up. Motion blurring. In playing games, I really don't notice it that bad. In watching movies, sometimes when a character that's well lit up is on a dark background like black and they move, yeah, I can see a little bit of trailing. It's not quite as bad as downstairs there's a Samsung TV. It's the KS8500 or something. It's the quantum dot. That I notice it just a little bit more in. But once you get used to it, it doesn't bother you that much, or at least it doesn't bother me that much. But it is there. I've never owned an IPS monitor, so I don't know how much different it is. But I will say it's slightly more noticeable than my old Dells. But at the same time, this is brighter and has way better contrast than those old Dells. So that's probably why I notice it. I get much deeper, closer blacks here than I did on those old Dells. On a last note, let me see if I can... I wanted to see if the camera here will capture what they call a black light bleed, or just the lights. There is a little bit of it. Let's see, black light bleed test. And I don't know if the camera will pick it up or not, but I will play it. You either can see it or can't see it. Really what you notice is it's just slightly lighter here and here depending on how high it is. When you're perfectly centered with it, it's even. If you're up here, you get a little bit more brightness here, and if it's down here, and I chalk this up again to the brightness shift. If I do this, I kind of get the same thing, but I don't really have any, you know, corners bleeding out like you'll see in some IPSs, and maybe it's too bright for the camera to pick it up. I'll do a close-up, and if I need to, you'll be seeing an overlay of this right now. But in my eyes, there's no black light bleed here that's annoying at all. So that is my review of the CF791. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, you can put them down below, and I will try my best to answer them. If Samsung wants to, you know, respond with some of the minor issues I found, that would be cool. I doubt it. I wouldn't expect them to, and I don't think it can be fixed in any kind of a patch or anything. But again, those things are just minor nitpicks. If I had to trade those for squealing of clocking it at 100 hertz like some of the Predator owners had to do, I wouldn't do it. I would keep this. I would not. Or some of them can't reach 100. They're at like 92 or something. There's always going to be trade-offs, you know, and I'm okay with it. And if it really bothers me, you know, this isn't my holy grail monitor. I would love same resolution, probably HDR, you know, maybe have a higher refresh rate, 144, something like that. That would be like my holy grail, like, but that's probably years off. So for me, this was a great midpoint. I'll keep this for a couple of years. I'll enjoy the heck out of it, and it'll be an awesomely fun, good monitor to have. So hopefully it's answered some questions for you guys, or at least, you know, made you understand it a little more. These are things I didn't know going into it, but I have no regrets. I still love this monitor. I haven't even attempted to try to take it back. The only thing I didn't like was when I bought this, the seller on eBay was by Dig. It's, I don't know, and they're East Beach Camera or something, and Samsung on the website said, buy any monitor, ultra-wide monitor, and get Watch Dogs 2. Never got my copy. By Dig never got back to me. They claimed they had no certificates. Samsung said, yeah, they should have these little certificates with a code on it. So both companies were kind of like, no him, no him, no him, no him. And I don't really care that much. It was just going to be a nice thing to kind of get a copy of Watch Dogs 2. I don't have it. So I guess that the promotion's over. But that kind of sucked a little bit. I guess I blame Samsung for promoting that, but not being more on the ball, because a Beach Camera or by Dig is an authorized reseller of theirs. It's on their website, is listed as an authorized reseller, and it says buy it from an authorized reseller and get the code, but Samsung was unwilling to help me out. They're just like, I don't know, you gotta go see them. And then I saw them, and they're just like, I don't know anything about a code. So, I mean, you know, really, somebody dropped the ball there pretty big, and like I say, it's just a free game, not a big deal, but don't advertise things that you can't deliver, Samsung. That's what I'm saying, you know. Your phones are already blowing up. Don't blow this too, because you got a pretty good thing here if you can just iron out a few things. Anyways, thanks for watching, and till the next product review I do, have a good one.